You are now watching Believe. Do you believe?
Y'all, here we are for another episode of Believe in Kentucky. Appreciate everybody tuning in. My name's Vinny Hardy. Got AG Aaron Gershon in here. Now that it's football season, we got a former player in here to drop knowledge with us on a regular basis. Been on this podcast a couple times before. The former QB1 for Kentucky, back when Coach Stoops first arrived. Jalen Whitlow is in here going forward throughout the football season. Man, Jalen, we're glad to have you. Glad to have you back. And we finally got a game to talk about, too.
Yeah, man, glad to be on. Definitely got a lot to talk about, what happened and what's coming up, man. So excited to jump into it.
Yeah, it was Miami, Ohio, which – didn't you play them too when that Stoops' first?
Yeah, that was Stoops' first win.
Yeah. Actually, my sophomore year, that was our first home game and our first win. That was Coach Stoops' first win as a Kentucky head coach. So, I definitely remember that game.
Yeah, it was hot that day. Me and my dad and my little boy went, and it was roasting.
Yeah, it was blazing hot. I remember that.
For sure. So. Seemed like they won that one 42-7 or something like that. It was a blowout.
Yeah, it was a blowout. We threw the ball well that game, and Max threw the ball pretty well too. Jeff Badette had a couple big plays that game. I think Zadarius Smith had like he had like 4 sacks. So I remember that game very vividly, man.
Yeah, and this past Saturday we had 37-13. Had some spark plays in the second half. AG, I know you were in the box for it, so you had a good bird's eye view of the kickoff return, the scoop and score, and all that stuff. So.
Yeah, it was exciting. First kickoff return touchdown since 2009. So first one in the Stoops era, first one since Derek Locke in 2009. So Barryon Brown, after the game, pretty much said he knew of that stat and that he was going to do it. They were laughing about it. So really good to see the return game. Not biggest takeaway, but I think one of the big things in this game is the special teams was so good. And that's such an underrated facet of the game for me. I mean, you saw obviously the kick return touchdown. You had Tavion at a 23-yard punt return. Ruffalo hitting from 50. That's not something he's always been able to do. So it was really good to see the special teams unit perform. I thought after the first drive, the defense settled in and played a pretty good game. And then we'll play. There's a lot to talk about offensively. I thought Will was pretty good, but obviously the protection is definitely a little bit worrisome.
Had a block punt too on the special team.
Yeah, block punt. That's right, JJ. Who he looks way quicker this year too. And I mean, he had a great year last year, but he's obviously now almost 2 years removed from the ACL as opposed to 8 or 9 months. And you saw it on the punt block, and you also saw it on that sack he had in the second half. He exploded off the edge.
Yeah, I think the big thing when I saw him. It was good to kind of see him without any knee braces or any shoulder straps on. I think that's always big, especially when you look in the trenches in the beginning of the season. It's good to see those big guys without any, braces on. You see a lot of shoulder straps because, those guys in the trenches, it's a battle in there. It's physical. So that was good to see. So, I think if they can stay healthy on defense, I think they can beat just about anybody on the schedule because I think that, they're going to continue to gel. So that's going to be something to look forward to.
Yeah, the defense is deep and no injuries on that front. Trevin Wallace was out actually on Saturday, we learned, but should be good to go this weekend and no injuries. And I thought defensively, man, the star of the game, Alex Afari, for a freshman, the way he played that nickel corner spot, that's not an easy position. And he looked like a seasoned vet out there.
He was setting edges and all the veteran type stuff that you wouldn't expect to see him be that far along, and like he'd been out there and just been there and done it already.
Yeah. He was flying around for sure. I remember. Yeah, he was physical with it too. That's good. That's good to see though.
Absolutely. Now, Jalen, we hear this every year. You've lived it. So from your perspective, we always hear a team improves most from week 1 to week 2. So tell all the listeners why that is that is more than just coaches saying something. What what actually takes place to cause such a dramatic improvement from week 1 to week 2?
I think, because, college football is the only sport where you don't get a preseason game or scrimmage. It's the only one where, NFL, you got it, high school, you got it, even youth sports, you got it. I remember middle school, we had scrimmages and preseason games. So it's the only sport where you don't get a chance to kind of shake everything up and see what sticks. So I think the biggest thing is you get a chance to really see how things flow, especially with a new coordinator on the offensive side of the ball for Kentucky. But you just get a chance to see, okay, what are our guys actually good at? Because when you're in camp, you're going to get the same 2, 3, 4 guys if you play left tackle. And you know those guys. So, and those guys know you. So it's kind of a different deal. Now, when you're playing against new guys every week, you get the chance to see, okay, this guy actually have a deficiency in this area that we didn't really get a chance to scope during camp. Or this guy has actually has a strength in this area that, we didn't necessarily see. Or, it could be a combination of both for one guy. And also for a coordinator, you kind of get a chance. You're talking about a guy who came from the NFL. He's been calling plays in the NFL, coaching NFL guys for a while. He get a chance to really see, okay, what can these guys actually handle in the game plan? They have school. Pro guys, they don't have school. The most they do during the week is, maybe some of them may have children to take to school. The rest, they're in the field house or in the facility the whole week. So you get a chance to get a gauge for what guys actually can handle, what can't they handle, what your quarterback like, what your quarterback don't like in a new offense, what your quarterback like with certain receivers. Because you see I saw a few inaccuracies on Saturday, and we can't always put that on the quarterback necessarily. It could be offensive line getting pushed back in certain spots based on certain protections that they may throw out. There's some protections that, Scangarello may just throw out for the Florida game. It's something that he may add. And I saw an interview from Levis to saying that they had some stuff that was, they were holding back that they didn't show in the game on Saturday. So I think that the week 1 to week 2 jump is huge because things kind of settle. Certain guys, you see, frankly, are not ready for this moment. Certain guys that you probably didn't think were ready are ready. So you just get a chance to see a lot of things. You go back and watch the film, you make the corrections. And again, especially those freshmen. Freshmen usually make huge jumps from week to week, right? Not just week 1 and week 2, but week 2 to week 3, and so forth and so on, because it's their first time in action. So it's a lot that go to it. It's a lot of variables that go into that week 1 to week 2 jump. Then you get guys injured, and you got to kind of figure out, and it's almost, you hate to say this, but sometimes it's almost not a bad thing, especially when a room like your running back room, to kind of narrow it down to a couple guys. Get most of the reps. Not saying that you want guys to get injured, but when you got a lot of talented guys in one room, you can kind of narrow it down and say, okay, we got a guy injured, we got Chris out or whatever. Now we only have 3 guys that we really truly count on. Now we can really put all the reps and practice on these 3 guys. And quarterbacks can get comfortable throwing to these 3 guys. These 3 guys get comfortable with the audibles, with the checks. Get comfortable with seeing certain looks, on certain plays, because they may run a wide zone play and the defense may do something. And if you're a 3rd or 4th string running back, you may see wide zone against a 4-3 look with this particular stunt, most of the time during the week. But you get in the game and they show something different and you got to make a different cut. And you don't have that banked rep in your head. That rep is not banked in you. So when you get in the game, you may make the wrong cut because you're used to seeing this during practice or during preparation. So it's a lot that goes into it, man. And but yes, there's true. Like, most of the time people make the biggest jumps between week 1 and week 2, especially the younger guys.
Yeah, and you're definitely going to need that from the offensive line. I think that was the area that fans kind of came out concerned with. And I think one thing to keep in mind, there's not much continuity yet. You lost 3 guys to the NFL. Kenneth Horsey was a little banged up, but what do you think of Mark Stoops shaking it up a little bit this week? So Kenneth Horsey is going to get the start at left tackle. He's moving over from left guard. He's played a little bit of tackle earlier in his career, but was at left guard all of last year. Jagger Burton will stay at left guard. Stoops said he played a really good game outside of one missed assignment that led to a sack. And then everyone else is the same. Of other notes, David Wallabog moves over to right tackle. He's the backup behind Jeremy Flaxen. There is an expectation for Keontae Goodwin to get much more playing time this weekend.
Yeah, I think it's all about finding that. Like Stoops mentioned this today, and this is another thing from week 1 and week 2. You get to find the right 5.
Yeah,
right? Because you may have a guy that's better at left tackle than he is at guard, but you need him at guard because you have somebody else that's been at left tackle and he's actually good at left tackle, but you need this guy at guard for this particular time. So it's just about finding the right mixture of guys because at the end of the day, you just want to get your best 5 on the field. Just like basketball, at the end of the day, if we're running a 5-guard system, we just want to get our best 5 basketball players on the court. And it's kind of like that at offensive line. So, I think that's a big thing, and that's going to help. With Horsey being back and healthy, that's going to help kind of relieve some of the anxiety from the quarterback because when you don't have the guys that you should have in there, and people can say whatever they want to say, but it does affect you in a way. It's in the back of your mind, and at quarterback, you just want solace in the fact that you can trust the guys around you. So that's going to be a big deal having those guys in the right spot in there.
Now, I know you listen to all the interviews and the pressers too, and like Stoops said, everything isn't always as good as it seems or as bad as it seems. So a lot of people wanted to kind of say, "Oh my God, the big blue wall is getting tore up." Was it, from what you saw? And they seem to say too, this thing's pretty fixable. Was it as bad as it seemed? Seeing Levis get sacked that many times by that D-line when you got Florida next week. Was it as bad as the fans want to make it seem like?
Yeah, I don't. When you watch the game, yes, it is. It's terrible because your potential first-round draft pick is getting sacked, getting hits on them, and I can tell they went into that game thinking we don't want to run Will at all. They went in that game with a certain mindset. It's just what it is. But yes, it is bad on the surface. But when you watch the film, and as a coach, I used to always go back and watch the films. Like, it's really not that bad. We just need to coach this guy up. If we get this look, then we should be passing this off here. Or maybe it's a simple footwork fix, or maybe it's a simple alignment fix or communication call. It's not always as bad as it seems because it's something that's really simple that can fix it. And now, the players got a more clear vision of what's supposed to happen. And now when you're not thinking, you can just let natural ability take place. Kentucky recruited, extremely well. Offensive line been up for however many, was it Maxwell Awards?
Joe Moore at Maxwell, yeah.
Whatever that award is for OL, forgot what it is. But, they recruited well, so they got the players. It's just about finding making the right. Again, that's where the week 1 and week 2 jump come from. It's a new system as well, right? It's a lot of similarities from last year, but at the end of the day, they're doing some new stuff. I've watched the game a couple times, and they're doing new things on offense, and things that's a little bit different with the splits, especially for the receivers too. So I don't think it's when you go back and watch the film, I don't think it's as bad as it seems. From when you're watching the game live, you're like, man, this is not. But when you as a coach, I'm sure they're in there like, this is a fix right here. Also, we're missing the guy, so we make this correction. We move on. So it's just about getting those guys reps and making sure you try to get every scenario you possibly can during the week. So when they see them in the game, they can just let natural ability take over, and it's not a lot of processing going on.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think one of the telling things with this game was we went through Mark Stoops' press conference after the game, and there was not one question about Will Levis and how he played. I think obviously that speaks that he did his job, but really, I think my positive takeaways, I thought the decision making was a little bit better outside of the one pick in the red zone that just can't happen. But the thing I wanted to ask you as a former quarterback, and I asked Coach Stoops about this today, is Will Levis has a special velocity on his ball. I mean, that's something the NFL scouts will drool over. But in the 20-yard catch, coach said that's got to be caught by Isaiah Cummins. But there's also the balls that are, the 5 to 10-yard plays, like the one to Justice Dingle, where Will is rifling it in there, and you just got to put touch on the ball. How tough is that? How tough an adjustment is that? I mean, you got to obviously you need your receivers to catch the ball, but you got to put them in. You got to just take a little bit off of it. You don't have to be the hero every time.
Yeah, it wasn't as tough as an adjustment for me because my arm wasn't that strong. So just being honest, for me, I was never a 100-mile-per-hour. I mean, I didn't say I had I'm not saying I got a weak arm, but it was. I mean, he would go in the NFL right now and have one of the strongest arms.
Yes.
So it wasn't that big of an adjustment for me, but yes, that is a key point. And I was watching Florida game, and Florida quarterback had one as well, where I'm like, I was sitting there watching the game with my brother. My brother also played Division I quarterback. And we were sitting there watching the game. It was like, man, there's a lot of guys out here who don't know how to tempo the ball, right? You got to be able to tempo a ball, even on a slant route. When you got a slant open, if you're early with the ball, you don't have to rifle it all the time. You still want to throw a one ball, which is a line, but you don't have to necessarily, it don't have to be a complete fastball in the bottom of the ninth inning. You can tempo the ball in there. So that was the thing. And like Stoops said, when he threw the interception, I think he just didn't see the guy. Sometimes you're down in the red zone, and you can tell he really didn't see him because he didn't put a lot of mustard on the ball. So he thought that he had the guy open. So I don't know if he saw the defender. He thought, sometimes, you got linemen, and some of those linemen are like 6'5", 6'6", so it's blocking your vision. So you didn't necessarily see him. So you just kind of, put a little touch on the ball, and, a guy make a play on it. So, it's definitely it's a nuanced position when it comes to throwing the ball. And I always teach our quarterbacks, when we're throwing the running backs on certain routes and we're throwing the tight ends always, especially in high school, the kids we dealing with in high school, we don't want to one ball it all the time. We want to make sure we're on time and we give them chance to react to the ball if the ball is off. We give them reaction time is what we want to give them. Because, those guys a lot of times are 240 plus pounds, so they may not have the agility and the aerodynamics of a guy like Tavion Robinson. So you got to be real careful how especially on the nakeds and boots. When you just dump it to the tight end, you got to definitely you got to add some softness to the ball and make it more catchable. So I just think it's one of those things that he'll continue to get better at, but he got to get better at it quick because next week is going to be you playing a faster, a better defense. So but I think they'll fix that.
So you have the pick to where we just talked about, where you just didn't see the defender, and he maybe took too much off of it, didn't zip it over there. Play to the opposite side, the touchdown to Dane Key, where he hummed that thing.
Yeah.
You wonder, man, how did he even get it to him?
Yeah,
threaded that thing.
One play to his right, one play to his left, both to the short corner of the end zone. But just he saw a defender there. Is that what you think it is? The difference when he saw a guy and didn't see a guy, or is it more to it?
Yeah, and sometimes again, like when you're playing a position, especially when you're throwing the ball over the middle, your natural instinct is to rip it because you don't want to put air on the ball over the middle, especially on those end breakers that they like to run. I watched San Francisco from last year. Obviously, that's where we come from. They like to run those digs, end breakers. Some of them off play action, some of them not. But you want to rip those balls to them, on those end breakers because you don't want those safeties, beaming down on them if they're waiting for the ball. So he had a couple in there that he threw that was like, and that's why so many scouts were at the game the other day because, it's just not many guys on the planet who can throw the ball like that. The way he throw one balls is, it's not many people who can do that. So, he got to use it. It's a time and a place to use it. And I thought he had a couple of them where he used it in the right, in the right setting, where receivers, it take time for receivers to get to catch that. But Dane Key is going to be, he's going to be a star, though.
Yeah,
he's going to be a star if he can continue to add some strength, which he will, and with the strength staff over the next 2-3 years, he's going to be a real deal. But yeah, it's times where he used it, and I was like, yeah, he probably should have used that. That's when you want to use it, especially throwing across the middle.
That was probably the most exciting aspect of this game is how good that wide receiver group and skill position group played. I mean, obviously, Tavion Robinson, 103 yards after the catch, 136-yard day, first 100-yard receiving day of his career. You mentioned Dane. That's the one thing that stood out with me, and he's going to get even stronger. He's already really good at making those plays in the middle of the field and going up and get those balls. That's what I saw all of, every open practice, every during the spring game, and then Barryon Brown's kind of the burner in that group, and special teams player of the week. So really impressive stuff. And I thought Chauncey Magwood made a nice play in the end zone on a throw that was a little bit behind him.
Yeah, and I was just about to talk about Chauncey. I remember watching him in high school down here. In my opinion, I think he has a very high ceiling. He's in a good receiver room where he may not get as many balls as he probably will want at receiver. They all want 100 catches a game, but I think, he's a guy who I think he has a very high ceiling, though. I think he's, played quarterback in high school too. So, he got a certain understanding of space, spatial awareness, and, how to, kind of find space in the defense. So, but they got a room, man. Barryon Brown. When I saw that kick return, I was like, he was wearing number 2 as well. So I was like,
That's right.
You gotta love that.
Yeah, but they definitely got a room. Now it's just about getting those guys on the same page. And some of them are young, but it don't matter, man. Nowadays, this not college football from pre-2000s or even pre-2010. This is 2022. These kids nowadays are getting trainers at age 8. And they're playing 7-on-7 football year round almost. So they're coming in college ready to play. So it don't matter, it don't matter if you're a freshman or not. Can you play at the end of the day? The biggest thing is, the volume of concepts that's in the offense for receivers and quarterbacks and running backs. Can you handle the concepts? After that, if you're talented, you're going to play. It don't matter if you're 18 or 22.
Because it was a slant, a little end cut to Key, and he kind of slid, and it was back and up and behind.
Yeah.
To me, that was just as big time as the touchdown, and I was
that's the play that's stood out to me because it was pretty good coverage. It was almost the defender almost made a play on it.
Yeah.
But like I said, they got talent, man. It's a talent. Like and Stoop said, it's probably his most. He didn't want to say it's his most talented receiver room, but it is.
Oh, it is.
And it's not even that close, to be honest with you, because I think Tavion Robinson, he don't have the speed that Wandale had, or Wandale has, because he's good at NFL too. But he's a good receiver. You can tell he got a natural feel for space. He got a natural feel for concepts. He understands what's going on. The game isn't moving too fast for him. You can just tell by the way he plays. So. I think, like I said, the sky's the limit, really, man. They got the talent.
And going back to the quarterback position, your spot. After having said all that we said, Will Levis still said that he's never been more disappointed.
Yeah, that's I asked him how he played, and that was the answer.
Touchdown performance, 3 TD performance in his life. So go ahead, AG and Jalen, man, the mindset.
Yeah, when I asked him that, he said he was the most, like you said, most disappointed he's ever been. And I think, and I asked Scarangarello that too, and it was just kind of what Jalen said. Just missed opportunities. Like there were plays that could have been made. Not seeing guys, not seeing things he thought he should have saw, and some throws that were to the left that he got bailed out on. I think he was just a little frustrated with that, but he was very happy, and I think everyone was outside of the pick, which might have, like you said, just been not seeing him. The decision-making was much better. I mean, that was a big issue last year, and it was much better. Outside, the one thing no one asked about it, and one thing that scared me, though, is when I see him leaping over 5 guys trying to dive for that first down. Like, come on, man. Not week one. Not week one.
Yeah, he's going to do that. That's just the type of guy he is.
Yeah.
He's going to do that. But that's why everybody like him. Not many quarterbacks are willing to do that type of stuff, and it does galvanize a team. As a leader, when you're doing that type of stuff, people like that type of stuff. Your teammates like it because it's the quarterback stigma that you're going to slide and take care of your body and whatnot, and he's diving over people. People like that, but I didn't think he played bad at all. Like I said, there were a few inaccuracies on the tape, but at the end of the day, again, we don't know why though. Like we can easily say, and he's going to say he should have made the throws, and maybe he should have. And you always teach quarterbacks see the angle, hit the angle, no matter what the guy's running. See his angle and be able to hit the angle and be accurate with the ball. But at the end of the day, we don't know, what they got going on in the room as far as the camaraderie and the chemistry. So it's going to continue to get better. But like I said, when I was watching the tape, I was like, pretty decent performance. But if you look at the stats, that's over 300 yards passing.
You don't do that on accident.
Yeah, so it's. I know for a Kentucky fan, and just to be completely frank, it was hard for me to watch Kentucky football the past, before last year. Because I'm a guy who I like to see passing. It's just hard for me to watch guys, teams that just running the ball every snap. But now, like I look forward every week to watching them because I know they're going to throw the ball.
Yep.
And that's just fun to see. Especially when you got a guy like that and you got receivers like they have and you got an O-line like they're going to be. That's fun to see because they got the talent to do it. And I don't think 300 yards passing for him, as we saw yesterday or Saturday, I don't think that'll be like an anomaly. I think they got the structure on offense where he could average in the high 200s and throw for 300 a few times this year. So they have that type of structure on offense where they can do that. But just got to continue to keep coming together.
Absolutely.
I didn't mean to jump in. And
no, you're good.
Stoops talked about at different points in times, which we saw the spark with the kickoff return, we saw the turnover on defense. There are times where they didn't have that edge. The guys got a little flat, didn't have that energy. Is that something the coaches try to drive in, or will kind of the older guys kind of make sure that everybody's kind of got their head in the game and hyped like they should be, which shouldn't be a problem going to Florida.
I don't think so.
Is that a coach thing, or is that the older guys in the locker room gonna have to, hey, let's get this hyped up like it should be?
I think it's a combination of both. I think what you want though in the football team, and this is one thing that Stoops always talk about, back when he first got there, what we didn't have is that type of leadership. And I'm not going to say we didn't have. We had guys who were leaders, but the consistency of the leadership and the number of leaders that we, it was a different culture we were coming into. So I think now they got like 3 or 4 linebackers that they got to be 22 years old. They're older guys.
Yep.
Quarterback, that's a veteran, older guy. So usually, as a coach, you always say if the leadership is coming from the coaches, then that's good. But if it's coming from the players, that's great. We need it from the players. So I think they have that. So I think it was a combination of both. I think, to be honest with you, first game, you usually come out pretty fired up. But at the end of the day, it's the difference between playing Miami of Ohio and playing Florida in the swamp in front of 100 grand. So that's the big difference, So I think next week, he won't say that in his press conference. If they're not successful, it won't be because of a lack of juice and strain and whatnot that he talked about. It won't be because of that. If anything goes wrong. So it's one of those things, man. At the end of the day, the kids are not They're not. They're not stupid. You know, they know that Miami of Ohio doesn't have the players that they have in their roster.
Yeah.
Kentucky. Now,
Yeah.
you want them to be self-driven and not think about that and just, play extremely hard anyway. But human nature sets in sometimes.
Yeah, and I think part of it too is, and Stoops even suggested it might be, is this is the first year Kentucky's not being disrespected, not nearly as much. I mean, they're predicted to finish second ahead of Tennessee and Florida in the East. They're projected, they start the season in the top 25. A lot of good vibes around the program. You had, Chris Doering go out and projected 11-1 year. I mean, there's a lot of buzz, but I think one thing, in addition to obviously playing Florida, coming off what they just did, there's going to be buzz going into their house and all that. Is, you're back to being the underdog. Florida just had an amazing win over Utah. All the credit to them. And now they're the darling again. Everyone thinks the program's back after that one game. The fan base is completely bought in. And then you look at the line, and Florida's a touchdown favorite. And it goes back to right. And Mark Stoops has said it. He loves flying under the radar. And you can kind of go right back to that mindset this weekend.
Oh, yeah, 100%. And honestly, as a coach, that's what you want. I mean, you don't. Yeah. That's why you always hear Nick Saban, talking about rap for them and making sure he get on the reporters from, at the end of the day, reporters are doing their job, but
sure.
The people who, write the columns and the reporters, they're gonna do their job. But as a coach, you just hate it because, the kids are on social media, players on social media, they see it. Again, human nature, man. Is you fighting against human nature a lot of the time. So I think that's the big thing. But going again, I don't think it will make a difference if Kentucky was a favorite. I don't think it would make a difference if they're not going into that environment. On a Saturday, playing in front of that crowd. You know what's going on with that, man. So you better.
And to your point, you talked about all the 22-year-old linebackers, DeAndre Square included in that bunch. They're healthy on that side of the ball, but, you had Wright been out the first game. Square was playing some outside linebacker. Weaver ended up being inside on a few plays. So, they got hit in the mouth on that first drive, and then they, kind of got their feet underneath them. But first of all, credit to Square for being that versatile to step out there when that's not even his position.
Yeah.
And you kind of like what we're gonna see once you get all the guys back where they normally play too.
Yeah, and and just watching it, the defense is so multiple.
Yeah.
Like as an offensive coordinator watching Kentucky's defense, it would be a nightmare to prepare for because they do so much in a scheme. It's kind of complex, and they run that 3-4 hybrid scheme that can morph into a 5-man front, that can morph into a 4-man front, and they got very versatile guys running it, very veteran guys at linebacker that's running it. That makes it tough on offense. So I think I think the best is ahead for that defense. They're going to continue to get better. Because they got the leadership. It's just good defensive coordinator. Obviously, Coach Stoops is a defensive guy. So, at the end of the day, he has a lot of say-so in that. It's complex. It's good stuff. So, like I said, they're not going to prepare for, but, the elephant in the room this week is going to be containing 15.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, that's the elephant in the room. And yeah. I got some bold predictions about that.
Oh, yeah. I want to hit one point on the defense, then I want to get to that. One, you mentioned Jaquez Jones, I thought was the best player on the field. I mean, he was flashing all over the first play of the game, made up pressure, had a sack. He was awesome. And then I think the only player I came away a little bit concerned with, and one of the calls was awful, was Carrington Valentine. You look at, he was on hip and hammer most of the game, 7 catches, 85 yards for him. The PI that was uncatchable, that's a brutal break. What are you going to do? I thought the PI closer to the end zone it could have gone either way. It was justified, but he allowed some big plays again. Saw some of the same things from last year. Also had one really nice pass breakup, I think, in the second quarter. So, he has to be the cornerback one on this team. What do you kind of see from him from a quarterback's perspective?
Yeah, I see a guy that's, again, has the ability.
Yeah.
So at the end of the day, that's what they recruit. I mean, at the end of the day, they got to recruit guys that got the ability. So I don't think it's a big deal. I don't think they're worried about it. I think the coverage was – I saw soft on a couple plays. And that's just one thing, if you watch certain teams and, we played Alabama my sophomore year in Kentucky. Certain teams like Georgia, Alabama, they're always playing very, very tight coverage. There's a lot of man-match stuff. Kentucky got into some like soft zone on Saturday, which is good, which is fine, but you're going to give up certain things. But the tighter man-match coverages, when you give stuff up, a lot of times it's a big play because it's more man principle. So I don't think it's a big deal, to be honest with you. It's a game. He got a couple bad breaks, in my opinion. I think he'll be good. I don't see that being a big deal. And again, you're going into Florida, so the level of focus that they're going to have is going to be pretty high. So I think they'll be fine.
You said you want to see those predictions. He already teased it a little bit, Aaron. He said the predictions for containing 15. That's what you.
No, I was getting more into yes, that's the. They're in the office right now meeting, trying to figure out how to contain it. And they're on the practice field right now talking about it and I just got done watching Greg McElroy's podcast, and he was talking about how he may be he resemble kind of like a Vince Young type, but I think this dude is different. With his size, speed, how fluid he is in his movements, how relaxed he is when he's making those plays. It looked effortless when he's playing out there. I think if Florida were to have a good year and the offense were to have a good year, I wouldn't doubt that he would be in the Heisman conversation at some point this year. I think he's that type of player. I'm not saying he's going to win the Heisman or make it to New York, but I wouldn't doubt that they mention his name along with Heisman candidates at some point in the year. I think he's that type of player. They got good running backs. They seem to have a very cohesive style offense. The play calling seems to be very complimentary when I watch them. So they're going to be tough to stop, especially with that quarterback. But that's the number one priority. If you can't let him beat you. Somebody else got to beat you when it comes to Florida's offense.
Yeah, that's easier said than done with this kid. Do you think you obviously don't want to let him beat with your legs, but is he a type of guy you want to make throw the ball? I mean, obviously he can make. The problem is he's a pretty accurate thrower. He makes most of the throws, but it still seems like that part of his game is still to be developed a little more than it is mobility wise. I mean, just when we saw him a little bit last year, the mobility was never a question.
Yeah, I think he definitely can throw the ball. He can throw it pretty accurate. But I think you got to box him in.
Yeah,
you box him in. You can't over-rush him. You can't rush past him. You got to have temporary spies on him. You got to because he's that type of player. I just really believe that. But at the end of the day, I'm not going to allow him, if I were coaching defense, to beat me running the ball. I'm going to make him beat me. If he's going to beat me, he's going to beat me sitting in the pocket throwing the ball, and that goes for any quarterback who has good wheels. I'm going to make you sit in the pocket and beat me with a thing that's probably not your strength. I'm not saying that he's not good at it, because he is. He's good at throwing the ball, but obviously what drives defensive coaches crazy is quarterback scrambling, making big plays, and quarterback run game. How do you account for that? So if I had to guess, we would see a lot more single high man type coverage in certain situations to get more guys in the box for him, because when you run the quarterback, you got an extra blocker with the running back. So I would say they will have to make an adjustment with that, but it's a fine line, because again he can beat you throwing it. So but you can't let him beat you running it. So it's tough. That's why the game is going where it's going. And if I had to guess, Will Levis going to have to carry the ball a few times in some of these games to get them over the top. You know, at the end of the day, that's what it is. When you play good teams, if your quarterback can carry the ball, you know, you get an extra element that, you know, that's hard to game plan for. So this is going to be a good game, man. It's going to be two good quarterbacks that's going to eventually be draft picks. So it's going to be a good game, I think.
Sure. I'm gonna switch it up. Of course, we focus on Kentucky, and that's the whole foundation of the podcast for sure. But you know, we peep at every. You know, you talked about watching Florida. We all peep at other games to see what's going on. You talked about how hard it was to watch Kentucky. You know, when they were pretty much all run all the time. How tough is it to be? And we just saw these guys in the Citrus Bowl to be an Iowa fan when they two safeties to win.
Man.
Oh man!
Yeah, I think y'all know my answer to that.
Change the channel.
Yeah, that is. I don't see how people watch it, man. And look, Iowa's a good program. That's the crazy thing. Typically a good program, but man. That's bad. You know, that's bad. But it was bad last year, really. You know,
their offense was terrible.
Yeah, they were just so good everywhere else that you know, it kind of masked it a little bit. So it was kind of on the back burner. But yeah, I you know, if I'm a Big Ten defensive coordinator, I'm like, you know. I'm playing cover zero. I mean, I'm making them look good. I mean, they not beat me.
That was like the dud, though. I mean, there was the games this weekend for week one were pretty outrageous, I thought. I mean, the two most hyped games, I mean, Ohio State, Notre Dame was okay. Obviously, Ohio State pulled away. Georgia killed Oregon. But, I mean, that LSU game last night, oh, my goodness, was crazy. 99-yard drive and then gets blown up by a blocked extra point. You had the extra point miss in the NC State ECU game. You had a 2-point conversion drop to App State, NC State. Just, I mean, wild. And obviously the backyard brawl starting it all off. It was just so good to have college football back.
Yeah, would y'all kick the extra point in that situation with LSU, or would you go for two? With the momentum, you know, you 99-yard drive or whatever it was.
That's what typically I'm a just kick it and let's play overtime guy. Like, I know Steven Johnson was banged up, but I remember being upset during the Music City Bowl that, you know, Stoops didn't just take the point and send that game to overtime. But with like you said, the momentum, 99-yard drive, defense is tired, you know. I mean, you have all the momentum in the world. Just go for the win, and that would have been such a huge win, I think, for Brian Kelly, who's taken so much crap, a lot of it rightfully so this offseason. That would have been like a program momentum-changing victory, and you don't count on an extra point being blocked, but yeah, in theory, I go for it too. I mean, too much momentum there.
I think I would have kicked it because it's a miracle that you're in position to tie the game. I mean, it's 17-3, it's 24-10. Florida State had the nail in the coffin, and they gift wrapped. I mean, they're down on the goal line to put it out of reach. So you go 99 yards to even get there. I'm like, go ahead and kick it. I think if they kick it and tie it, they win in overtime. They could have went for two and got it. We'll never know. If they had made the extra point, which they didn't, I think they win in overtime. So I think I would have kicked it because I'm like, look, we just lucky to even be going to overtime.
It's true.
Yeah, I'm definitely kicking the extra point.
Me too.
Times out of 100. And why I say that because, again, the momentum is going to spill over to overtime because you got Florida State. Florida State is like scared now. I mean,
they were devastated.
They had the game won.
99 yards.
You had Greg McElroy even saying they should let them score. When Florida State had the ball inside the 5, they should just let them score so they can get more time.
Right.
So, you know, Florida State they can't believe that they're in this situation. So I'm kicking the extra point in theory going into overtime. Obviously that didn't happen. Yeah. But that's what I would do because I think you got the momentum even in overtime. But man, that's crazy. That's a horrible win. And that's the only team that took an L.
That's right. And credit to Florida State, though. I mean, you know, they were tired and all that and pissed off probably, but you know, they kept with it on special teams to make a huge play. They didn't want that game to overtime, and they made that big play. But yeah, you're right. Only SEC team to lose. And the one stat SEC-wise that stood out to me funny, last year, Vanderbilt, it took them till week 8 to get to 105 points, and they're already there 2 weeks into the year, even though they gave up 31 to Elon.
Vanderbilt got – I saw the other tweet. Vanderbilt has 2 wins before LSU
has 1.
That's what world are we living in? And also part of the Believe Podcast Network, Are You Serious Sports? They do the LSU. Blake Ruffino, he tweeted out, he said, we sold our soul to win that 2019 chip. And that's basically I feel bad for him.
What a roster that was.
Yeah, that was crazy. That again, it's like the 2013 Florida State National Championship. I mean, everybody on the field got drafted. So it's, but I don't think.
And Auburn should have won that. Auburn should have won that game.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Last minute drive. But I don't think people
should try to jump that route. Don't try to jump that route, and Auburn wins.
Yeah.
And the point you just made is why what Georgia did is insane. Everyone on that team last year, pretty much, NFL, they're gone. 15 draft picks, 9 starters on defense, 10 if you count, the Adam Anderson situation, and 49-3 against the Oregon.
Yeah,
good Oregon team.
Yeah. But I told people, I was like, Oregon's not real. I mean, but I told people a month ago about this. I was like, people are writing Georgia. They weren't writing Georgia off, but they were like ranking Georgia lower than Alabama. I think that's so disrespectful. Like, if a team won a national championship, obviously they're recruiting very well. And if you track everything that Georgia's been doing, returning 3 tight ends, returning a starting quarterback who's been there for 17 years, great head coach. They've been at the top of the recruiting chain for the last 3 or 4 years. They've been right there at the top. How do you rate them number 3? I don't get it. Like, yes, they had draft picks, but in my opinion, if they've been recruiting that well, that means they have the Alabama effect. The Alabama effect is it don't matter what. Next year, they're still going to be very, very good. So you can't – I don't think you can rank a national champion number 3, especially not now. This is a one-year wonder type team like 2019 LSU.
Yeah.
It was kind of a one-year wonder type thing. So, yes, they dropped. But a team like Georgia returning his quarterback, returning 3 tight ends, they're returning too much. I don't see how you drop them in the rankings. I still think Georgia's the best team in the country right now, out better than Alabama. I just think when you look at them, they just play on another level on defense. And now the offense, I mean, Stetson Bennett, I always thought he was pretty decent. Now, he's like really good, at least against Oregon. Now, Oregon could be like not good at all for all we know. Obviously, the Pac-12 is very watered down now, but he played really, really well. I think people are, I don't know why they thinking Georgia, won't be back in that conversation. I know some people are putting them back there, but they're a scary team.
Absolutely.
Scary.
Well, y'all got some more thoughts to get in before we wrap this episode up? Y'all got them all in, or any little?
I think the last one I have is your guys' thoughts on this 12-team playoff that'll start taking shape here in a few years. That's why I asked it.
Hey, I guess I can see why they're doing it. At the end of the day, it's revenue generation is what it is.
1,000%.
At the end of the day, it's what it is. But in my opinion, at the end of the day, it's going to be 5 teams that preseason legitimately have a shot to win a national championship.
Yep.
Now, you're always going to have a team, a Cinderella type team, and now you open the door for a Cinderella tournament type deal.
Sure.
With this 12-team playoff. But at the end of the day, Ohio State's going to be somewhere in that mix. Georgia, Alabama's going to be somewhere in that mix. Oklahoma's going to be somewhere in that mix, who I think has a chance to make the playoffs this year with the 4.
Me too.
I think Oklahoma's really good, and they have a really good quarterback with a really good coordinator and a really good head coach and a really good defense. But I just think we're talking the same teams. Yes, it's going to be more exciting. Now, as I say that, teams like Kentucky can get in there, right?
Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, I still think Georgia's so far ahead of everybody in the East. I'm not saying they're unbeatable, but on paper, Georgia is in the SEC championship game again. Let's just call it what it is.
100%.
But obviously, the reason why they play the game, you got to play the game. Georgia plays Kentucky at Kentucky this year. South Carolina plays Kentucky at Kentucky this year. Now Kentucky got to go to Tennessee, but so there's going to be teams like a Kentucky type team that can make a playoff. And I don't, things crazy happen all the time. Crazy stuff can happen, but I'm not saying they can't make it in the 14 playoff. But you got those teams like Texas, who's going to be on the rise, who is going to be happy to have a 12-team playoff. They're also joining the SEC, and they're going to take some L's in the SEC. But eventually, teams like Texas A&M, Texas, Oklahoma, USC, Michigan, even a Penn State, they're going to be happy to have that 12-team playoff. So, yes, is it going to be good games? Yes. Am I going to watch the games? Hell yes. But at the end of the day, there's about 5 teams every year, and I'll add a Cinderella. I'll add a +1 who can realistically win a national championship. Mm-hmm. And if you really want to be harsh, there's 3 every year that can really.
I agree.
So
and look at last year. It was, good job Cincinnati, but it was really the other 3 teams in the dance. Yeah. Well,
I think USC is gonna come up. Not this year, but eventually
they're coming.
Yeah, and I give them 2 years, and USC is gonna be a problem. Texas is gonna be a problem in 2 years. So. Yes, the 12-team playoff, yes, it helps those guys. But I still stand by my statement that, you got 5 teams +1 as a Cinderella team that can beat anybody on any given day. But outside of that, it's going to be a feel-good story for 6 other teams that's just going to get in there and get their head beat in.
Agreed 100%.
So
that's it. Well, we also got to, before we wrap the episode up, got to talk about our friends at La Terrain. La Terrain Watches been doing their thing for a long time, Dave and Ben. It's an investment that lasts for ages. La Terrain's curated collection of men's and women's watches is a perfect investment that lasts for years to come. You got accessories, you got watches for men, women, the Atlas, the Seafarer, so many different styles. Go to the site and check it out. Hit that chat with us button. If you got any questions about the watch you want to purchase, they will respond and answer those questions so you can make an informed decision about the timepiece you're about to buy. LaTerrain.com, LA-TOURAINE.com. So definitely tell them you heard about them by listening to the Believe in Kentucky podcast. Got Aaron Gershon doing his thing for the Cat's Paws, started by Oscar Combs, that every Kentucky fan knows about and subscribe to at some point in their lifetime. Got Jalen Whitlow. Got the link tree on his Twitter, JWhitlow_2. Got the BTG quarterback training. Got books he's written. He's an author 2 times over. So follow these guys on Twitter. Check out what they're doing. We all come together to bring you this podcast. And Jalen dropping knowledge, Aaron dropping knowledge, Aaron covering practice and press conferences, and Jalen watching the interviews and watching the film, and all of us trying to bring our perspective here. To the Believe in Kentucky. Go to Believe.com to get every episode. And also a Sea of Blue, because our homies Jason Markman and the fellas put these episodes up on their site as well. So check them out there. Go back and listen to what we talked about a week or 2 or 3 ago. Check this one out going forward, and look forward to bringing you more. Look forward to this Saturday in the Swamp. Hoping we can come back talking about the Cats going 2-0 overall and 1-0 in the SEC. So, fellas, man, it's been a lot of fun. Appreciate y'all's knowledge, and we'll do it again real soon. Y'all come back and listen to us here on Believe in Kentucky.